Welcome to the first installment of my new video series, What is Depression? In this video, I'll be giving you an overview of depression and introduce some of the leading factors that cause the symptom of depression. Now, if you noticed right there, I called depression a symptom. That's very important to remember when talking about depression. Depression is, at its core, a symptom of another illness, just like a runny nose is a symptom of a cold. But in this case, some kind of environmental stress is causing your brain to make you depressed. So what would cause your brain to make you depressed? Well, remember, it's not your brain's fault. Depression is just your brain's response to some physical or environmental stress. These physical and environmental stresses include chronic illnesses, serious illnesses to you or a family member, alcohol and drug abuse, verbal or physical abuse, anxiety disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and lots of other physical and environmental stresses. So I've named a lot of the things that can cause your brain to make you depressed, but what actually is making your body feel so bad? The truth is, we don't know. Like I've said before, the brain is the most infinitely complex thing in the universe, and it has many secrets, including depression. What we do know is this. Depression seems to follow a family down from generation to generation, which implies that it might be genetically linked. Brain scans measuring the activity of the brain also show that people with depression have a very different looking brain than people without it. There's also strong evidence that a neurotransmitter imbalance could be part of what's affecting people with depression. Two neurotransmitters that are most often linked to depression are GABA and serotonin, and I'll be going into much more detail about them in the future installments of the series. It is known that emotional distress comes from the deep limbic system of the brain, specifically the hippocampus, thalamus, and amygdala. The improper balance of neurotransmitters between these structures of the deep limbic system could be the main cause of depressive-like symptoms. But once again, we don't know. We do know that depression is a symptom of other illnesses. So how do you know if you have depression? Depression is one of the most wildly misdiagnosed illnesses in the world. One of the main reasons why is because it's treated as a disease of the brain rather than a symptom of the brain. Antidepressants and other medical practices focused on curing depression will do a lot to help relieve people of their depressive symptoms, but is a far cry from curing depression. So here are some things that you should look out for if you think that you might have depression. Prolonged feelings of intense sadness or anxiety. This is the most common symptom that people look at for depression, but it's also one of the most underrated. Classifying these symptoms as depression means that they've probably been happening for weeks or months on end, and they're so intense that you can't function as your normal self. Another thing to think about is if you're experiencing any of the things that I said make you vulnerable to depression. Remember that prolonged illness, alcohol and drug abuse, intense emotional stress, and many other things can cause depression. So if you're experiencing any of these problems and the intense emotional stress and sadness, you may have grounds to believe that you have depression. Well, that's all I have for this installment of What is Depression? Stay tuned for my next installment, How to Heal Depression. As a disclaimer, I must say that depression is a very real and serious thing. If you believe that you have depression, please see your local family doctor or psychiatrist. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for my next video.
It was a California August in '82 when my mother gave birth to the Spam Tech crew. 13 years later had me looking at Linux. Programming made me stronger like Papa the Spinach. Now, people know that a DG carry weapons, but if that weapon is a nest you step in, we finish Contra with only one life. Finish Metal Gear 2 using only a knife, right? People might think that we're frontin', then they see all the noobs online that I'm putting my rhymes